You're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation, CONIWAS, and the Environmental Service Providers Association, EPSA, are demanding the immediate payment of landfill operators in the country, a factor which the association describes as a threat to sanitation and development. Now, in a joint statement read by the Vice Chairman of CONIWAS, Mr. JoyNews, the government owes landfill operators 42 million Ghana cedis in unpaid cash. Now, this makes it difficult for waste managers to fulfill their mandates, as many are either having to halt operations, working unfavorably, or on the verge of collapse. Now, the bodies made these revelations at the first of a monthly environmental dialogue series in Accra today.
The President's vision of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa at the end of his first term in office is yet to receive the requisite support to ensure that it comes to fruition.
Right, Ama Badago of the Environmental Service Providers Association is here with us. She's the Executive Secretary of that organization, and we're of course joined by Mr. JoyNews, who you just heard and saw in that video. He's the Vice Chair of CONIWAS. It's very good to see you both. Thank you very much for your time. So help us understand the reality of this situation. If you don't mind, I'll start with you, Ama. What do we know about the reason for the delay in payment of millions of cedis to these service providers?
Thank you, and then good afternoon to your viewers. When we talk about landfills management, what a lot of Ghanaians do not know is these landfills have been outsourced to the private sector. So some private sector people are now responsible in managing the landfills. And then in managing the landfills, it's capital intensive, even to do proper landfill management in a day, which requires getting the required compactors, specialized bulldozers, getting your fuel, getting even your labor, and then even doing proper fumigation, and even the treatment of the leachates. All these things are capital intensive. So ideally, with the contracts that we have with most of the assemblies, which is known as a fee and performance-based contracts, which is also referred to as a franchise, the assembly's role is to ensure that they provide us with a final disposal sites where we can go and dump refuse. But unfortunately, most of the assemblies do not even have these landfills. So there are very few ones that are there that there's so much pressure on that a private person has taken upon to manage. The person manages and it's in arrears or is in debt as far back as 2016, 2017, 2018. So what happens? Because the landfills are not being managed properly, anytime you realize that the EPSA members would have to be in a long queue to dump because the excuse is their equipment are broken down, they've not been able to cap so that you can even have access to go and dump. And the operator...
Explain this capping.
You know, when you put on a proper engineering landfill, or for any landfill to manage properly, when you put the refuse, it has to be leveled. While after the leveling, then you apply sand so that you can cap it properly. That is the capping. Then you can create another layer. Then you can continue. Then you keep capping. So you see what we have at the landfills right now, which is almost like a mountain. Ideally, that's not how it's supposed to be. But because the operators, those managing the landfills, hardly get the necessary or the requisite support in managing these landfills, they also do what they can do with the little resources that they have. And more often than not, they have to depend on loans. And then when government pays them, before they offset all those loans and things. But what is happening is the rains are just about setting in. And as we speak, we don't even have enough landfills. And just the few ones that we have that we can access, with Accra, the operators are waste landfills. What they are telling us is they are owed so much that they cannot continue providing service if they don't get any support.
Right. What you describe as support is actually money that they are owed, they are entitled to. There's a contract, am I right?
Yes, there's a contract.
So it's not support. This is
actually,
their money.
Yes, it's their money. But you see, when it comes to Ghana and it comes to waste management, ever since the private sector came in, it looks as if we want it and we are in it. So it's like carry the load. But ideally, that is not how it's supposed to be. So our plea this morning, our plea to the government is, the government should intervene and pay all the arrears. Will you believe Kumasi landfills, OT landfills, the operator, the JoyNews, has not been paid for over 6 years, and the company is virtually collapsed. How can you then promote private? You said when we come, private sector is the agent of growth. Yet the private sector, the players invest their money and they don't get the necessary support and the enabling environment. You are rather crippling the companies that want to even come up and support. Meanwhile, when you look at the employment we've given to Ghanaians, over 300,000 jobs have been created as of sanitation alone.
Right.
So it means we are playing a key role. So all that we are asking is, we want government to take that. The highest political commitment we've had is from our Excellency, saying he wants Accra to be clean. If truly this is the highest,
cleanest city in Africa, that's what he said.
Which is the highest political commitment we've ever received as Ghanaians, then I think the government of the day needs to do more to prove to Ghanaians that truly they are committed to that statement. Right. So all that we are asking is, all outstanding landfill bills should be paid to enable the operators to continue working, so that the other members can also go and dispose of their refuse every now and then. Okay. If the landfills are not managed, that's when you see heaps of refuse in the cities, because we don't have anywhere to send the refuse. And as if that is not enough, even the facilities that we have right now, they are so limited. Okay. Landfilling actually is not the way to go. We need to start looking at options like treatment facilities and then recycling.
I was hoping we would come to that a bit later, because I want to focus on what we are doing at the moment. That is where the problem exists, because you are unable to continue doing what you've been asked to do or what your contract requires you to do, because you haven't been paid for what you've done already. Now, I want us to focus on that for a minute. We'll talk about alternatives in a short while. So you mentioned that as a result of this, we're seeing more refuse in the cities. So talk to me, tell me what the process is. If you don't have the money and your job is to go and collect the refuse and take it to the landfill, you don't collect the refuse, what happens to it?
Right now we have challenges as to where to dispose of the refuse that we collect.
Mm-hmm. So you do collect it, yes. It's just that you don't know where to take it.
Yes.
So what happens to it? Where is it as we speak?
Currently, as we speak, the Insumia landfills and some few dump sites are taking care of it. But even the only existing waste landfill operator in Accra, which is Waste Landfills, right, wrote to the Secretariat and threatened that if they are not paid, they might be forced to pull out, because they cannot continue depending on loans to run the operations.
So at the moment, it's being disposed of, just that you fear you cannot continue.
Yes.
All right. Now, let me talk to you, Mr. Atta Ahin, because you perhaps have more of a bird's eye view of this situation with CONIWAS. So what's the problem here? What is government saying about the reason why they can't pay for the service that has been provided?
Thank you. I think, first of all, there's something we call prioritization. I mean, that which we don't prioritize, you don't, seem to be committed to it. And I think that it's a matter of prioritization. It's a matter of commitment. All over the world, I'm sure you are aware that sanitation is a public good. And that is why governments take keen interest in managing the liquid and solid waste, that we generate. If Ghana generates over 5 million tons every year, 1 million of which is plastic waste. And of the plastic, we only recycle 2%. It tells you the magnitude of the problem. We are fortunate to have had private sector operators
who have gone into treatment and recycling. I mean, they've invested heavily into this with the expectation that government will support them. If not at all, to be able to pay them regularly so that they can also provide the services. But having gone around the facilities, I mean, our verdict is that there's a lot more to be done. These facilities are processing, they are treating, they are recycling. But there's a limit to which they can go. Of course, you can do all the recycling, the treatment, but you still need the engineered landfill size to manage the waste that cannot be recycled or treated.
Right.
That doesn't appear to be the case. It looks like with the burning of the Pone landfill site and the OT one, which has been, I mean, poorly managed, I think that government should begin to take the steps. We are interested more in the public health dimension of the whole discussion. We are afraid that if something is not done urgently, we may unfortunately witness the 2014 incident where we had several people dying as a result of the cholera outbreak.
Now, you've made the point that you believe it's a failure to prioritize, but has there been an official explanation from government for this delay? I mean, 6 years to not pay a company that has worked for 6 years. What is the explanation being given for this officially?
For me, I don't think any explanation, I mean, will be feasible.
Has any been given at all?
Well, I think ESPA may have to then tell us whether a tangible explanation has been given. But to the best of my knowledge, I mean, no explanation, I mean, can satisfy what we are seeing and witnessing around.
Let's explore the health implications for a bit. Yes, you pointed to the cholera outbreak, the rather deadly one that happened in 2015, wasn't it, or 2014, where we lost a great number of Ghanaians as a result of it. Now, in addition to us fearing going backwards, we are also failing to go forward. So the president made this promise that we were just reminded of. Cleanest city in Africa by the end of his term. Now, I heard you speaking and you said that it is yet to receive the support. Support? I mean, who is to come and support government?
You see, when you make such a bold statement, and we welcomed it, we were extremely happy that the president has made such a pronouncement. Because, look, when the president speaks, we know that his appointees will go to work. So we're expecting the ministry, the MMDAs, to start doing something, which will eventually take us to the vision of the president. Unfortunately, when it comes to financing, I mean, we haven't seen any commensurate, I mean, increase in financing to be able to attain this vision. When it comes to law enforcement, it is very weak. People commit sanitation offenses and they get away with it. There is no sustained public education to carry the citizens along. When it comes to infrastructure development, we have failed. And therefore, we think that if we are able to do all this, even if we are unable to become the cleanest city in Africa, I mean, by 2020, very unlikely, but at least we could get somewhere. We could even become the best in West Africa. But I think that government needs to take those steps, which are so important to be able to get us to the status of, I mean, a clean city.
Now, when you speak to these private entities that are providing this service, I want to get your view of this. It's the closest to an independent view we can get. How close are they, some of them, to collapsing as businesses?
In fact, many of them are just on the verge. Many of them. I mean, I have witnessed, we have visited some of their facilities, and you can see that they are really crippled. I mean, you know, previously, many of them used to do quite well. But I think that the non-payment of the bills and lack of support from government has really affected them. I was happy when the president, during the launch of the National Sanitation Campaign, as part of the 11-point directive to the ministries, departments, and agencies, directed that the waste management companies should receive support. So we were thinking that some stimulus package would have been provided them, but it didn't happen.
Right.
But this has really affected them. Because apart from the receipt of payment for work done, elsewhere, government subsidizes even the tipping fee. Or government scraps it, takes care of it, so that when people are going to dump at the treatment and recycling facilities, they don't pay anything.
Right.
So that there's no motivation for them to go and dump elsewhere. But it doesn't happen here.
Right. Did you see that video over the weekend when it rained? The video of asylum down
Yes,
in the
yes,
big
I saw
gutter.
it.
And
yes.
Yeah.
Very
Now,
unfortunate.
the Minister for Works and Housing then watched that video and said it was propaganda.
Are you talking about the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources?
Thank you. Sanitation and Water Resources. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
He used to be at the
Yes,
Works and Housing Ministry. Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Atachia.
That's Works and Housing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you are right.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
He said that it's propaganda. He doesn't believe that is real. For somebody who is waiting for the government to actually kick things up a gear to fix this problem, how does that make you feel?
No, I mean, I think that the least we could do is to take steps to address the situation because it's real. I mean, when I also saw the video the first time, my first impression was that, is this real? Then we deployed some members to go and check, and they verified. And so this cannot be fiction. It is real. And this is something that we have been sitting on. I think that we need to do something urgently as a state. The smaller countries are overtaking us and doing the good things, best practices in terms of sanitation management, and we are not doing it.
All right, we're going to wrap up. We've got 30 seconds. I just want to know what you were talking about the future, that landfill is not the most sustainable option. Tell us, what should we as a nation be doing with our waste?
Going forward, if 60% of our waste is organic, we should start thinking of how to turn it into compost. Then we can recycle the plastic bits. And even with the plastic bit, the private sector have worked so hard, where we've put in the plastic excise tax fund, where government in actual fact should release that money so that we can go into recycling on a large scale, so that we can take care of all the plastics in the system and even recycle the plastics. So the private sector have worked so far, and that provision has been made. But as we speak, even that money is sitting with government, and we are complaining every day and now about sanitation challenges in this country, which is not fair.
Right.
So we also have to ensure that the value addition is done, where we have the public-private partnership, clear policy frameworks that would encourage a lot more investors to come on board and then engage in recycling.
I'm afraid that's where we would have to put a pin in it, because I'm told that our time is up. But I'm so grateful to the two of you for coming in, giving us a reality check of the situation. It looks like in the end it all comes down to money. Money that is in the hands of the state that claims they care about sanitation. This is not the end of it. We'll keep talking.